Okay, I'm recording now. Would anyone like to start?
I can start.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, also for being so late. Really appreciate it. Okay, so my first question is, which part of Edward's journey did you relate to the best, or like resonated with you the best?
I think for me, when he went through the process of losing whatever her name was, Sarah Beth, I guess, that was like really impactful for me because I've like been in that situation and lost someone that I loved. And so in the scene where he's like flying up and wanting to be with Sarah Beth and everyone else is like pulling him back down, I was like, yep, like I know what that feels like. So
Cool. I'm not sure I could relate to Annie, but I liked when he was with, I think, Sarah Beth's brother, right?
Mhm.
And then he like let him go so he could be fixed and stuff, like he knew should be fixed instead of like him having him. I thought that was cool. I like that part a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my questions was, do you think Edward was really a person trapped inside that rabbit? Like in I think her name was Pellegrina.
Mhm.
Possibly.
I
mean, he was an inanimate object that was animate. I mean, so yeah, that could be like part of the story that's like reading in between the lines, except it's kind of the whole story, so.
I thought it was how like she mentioned it in her story.
I don't know if y'all like ever read this book like before, but I didn't. And so I just like thought I was gonna, well, by the cover I thought it was gonna be this like walking bunny. I don't know, like this bunny that talked. I don't know what I thought, but I like got into it and was like, this is way different than I expected. And I don't know how that correlated to that question, but I think that's definitely a possibility that he is a person trapped. But it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
I definitely don't think this book was what I expected it to be. Like when I started reading it, I was like, it's not a rabbit. Like, I don't know. It was just not what I was ready for. So.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either to turn out with it just made out of China and stuff.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me to get started in it though. But it's really a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this would like go along with the question you asked, but I was just thinking about it. I was like, all the dolls in the book like talk to him. I don't know if that would make a difference of like they're just supposed to like have personalities or like can think but we don't know it kind of thing, or if they're actually people trapped inside of dolls. You know what I'm saying?
I had a question like that. Yeah, I was like, why do you think the author allowed all the other dolls to talk instead of like just him talking?
I think it's supposed to be like, I don't know this for sure, like, but I think maybe it's supposed to be like, oh, they have like big fake kind of thing, you know, like personifying like dolls and stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it would also give the story a whole different twist if he was the only doll that could talk, you know, because then it would be like just him observing this world around him rather than the world around him being like him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I had kind of a similar question. I asked, what adventures have your, like, meaning the students or the, like, whoever we're teaching this to, have your dolls or stuffed animals been on? So kind of like a twist on, like, Toy Story. Like, I know when I was little, I used to, like, think that my toys came alive, like, when I left the room. And, like, you know I wasn't the only one that felt that way. So, like, what adventures, or they can even, like, create their own adventure of, like, what they think their dolls or their stuffed animals do when they're there, when you're not there, is what I should say.
Asking us about our own stuffed animals, what they do when they're not there, or is it just?
What?
Sorry, did I pause?
Yeah, I just, like, couldn't hear you very well.
Sorry. I just asked, like, if you were asking us, like if we had, like, views about our own stuffed animals when they left like when we left the room, like, is that what you're asking us about, like, our own dolls, or were you just?
I mean, I think it would just be, like, a question, like, addressed to the class, but not necessarily to, like, you guys, because, like, we're college students. But, like, we've all had that experience of, like, we grew up in the Toy Story era, and so we did, like, have that experience of, like, you know, my little guy, like, lived under the bed for a day because I forgot to pick him up or something like that. And, like, yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Toy Story. Probably a correlation. Didn't think about that at all. The one thing that I did think was kind of weird is how he couldn't move.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Like, why can't
Mhm.
I don't know. It was confusing.
Yeah, how can he move his base, like, to talk to other people if he can't move anything else?
Valid question. Valid question, honestly. Okay, so one of my questions, a little darker than the others, but what does the story teach us about tragedy and how to deal with that?
Well,
I think, like, for me, I was kind of referencing this a little bit earlier, but, you know, when he loses this girl, who, like, is his first, like, real true love, he kind of gets this attitude of, like, honestly, I don't even care what happens to me anymore. Like, I'm done. Like, I give up. And he kind of, like, sticks with that attitude, and he hardens his heart. And I think that's a lot of, like, what can happen with grief, or when you're going through a breakup, or, like, when you're in a fight with a friend. Like, your first instinct is to protect yourself. But I really loved at the end that it was a redemption story. It was a story of, like, he got a second chance, and he was able to, like, learn to trust people again, and learn to, like, open his heart, which I think is really great.
that's a good point.
I had a similar question to what Katie's was. And it said, do you think that this book would help children deal with something they lost? It is pretty much the same exact question.
Yeah. mean, Edward loses like over and over and over again. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about this book being like teaching children or helping children with like tragedy and loss and stuff. So I'm glad y'all are bringing up these questions because I didn't think of it that way. But I think it is a great book for kids to teach that to kids.
Like I don't know. I mean, I think some of the older kids like might like want to read it, and I don't know. But like when I read the part that you were talking about Rose earlier about when he like grows wings and starts flying. I'm just like, man, that's like, wow. Like I don't know if a kid would like, I don't know how they would like respond to that, or like, I don't know. Some of it's pretty like. It's good though, and I think it could definitely like at least get kids asking questions. I think because they'd also probably have questions about the book and they would ask
Yeah.
and read into it.
Yeah. I think like too with the amount of like literacy that the child would have to be able to read this book, like it's kind of naturally meant for like older elementary schoolers who could potentially understand that a little bit more. But yeah, I totally get it. Like it's not an easy topic to discuss or a fun topic to discuss, but like unfortunately the reality is that like we are going to have those kids in our classroom who have lost a loved one, even if it is like a pet or a grandparent or like something that you don't think is like necessarily as big of a deal might be a huge thing to them. So
But just like overall, how do you think students would respond to the book?
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. Overall, how do you think students would respond to the
Well, if they're anything like me, they'll be slightly misled by the title. I thought it was going to be about like a superhero bunny, and not gonna lie, and it wasn't like that at all. But I mean, once I started like getting into it, it was a good book and really interesting. It just took me a couple chapters to be like, okay, this is what the book is. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, I loved it from the beginning, but I was always that kid with like the overactive imagination who would like place their stuffed animals in like strategic little ways before you go off to school and all that stuff. So to me it just like spoke to me because like that was my childhood. Like I truly felt that like my animals and my little dolls were like alive and had personalities, and yeah.
Honestly, what made me think about this question was I was reading the book at like a coffee shop, and I ran into a friend of mine, and she was telling me about her mom, and her mom's like a kindergarten teacher or at first grade, something like that. And she said that she reads this book every year to her kids, and these kids are young, and they just by the end of the book they're all weeping, and I'm like, oh. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet.
That is so precious.
Sweet.
Yeah. That's so precious. And that shows that like little kids can understand it too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay, here's my second question. What do you think the main theme or lesson of the book is?
I don't know. That's a good question. But maybe like if you lose something and like a parent or somebody, everything's going to work out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to just, it's kind of like cliche, but like keep going and like persevere and like don't become hardened by the things that happen to you. Just like let every experience like change you for the better, kind of like super cheesy, but you get what I'm saying?
Nice
Yeah.
in there. I liked it.
So my second question was, how do you think Pellegrina knew so much about Edward? Like, how do you think that she knew that he was incapable of love at that point?
That's a great question. It kind of like brings me back to my question, like what if she was like the person who made him into the rabbit and like he is actual person, you know? I feel like that might be the only way to explain it in my head.
Maybe because he was made out of China. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the one thing that like I couldn't get past, is like Pellegrina's this like creepy person who seems to like know everything about Edward and like doesn't make sense because he doesn't know it at that point. Like,
I wonder if when she walked by him on the street, if she like told, I can't remember her name now, but his original owner, if she like told her,
Adeline or something.
if she told her that he was like in that city or something, or maybe
That'd be cool.
yeah.
That'd be like even more of a redemption story.
I had a third question that I thought about, which was why do you think most of the people in the book treated Edward like an actual person? Like they talked to him like a person and acted like he was a kid, like, carried him on his shoulders and all that stuff. It's kind of like everybody kind of recognized that he was a person.
That was a little bit difficult because sometimes like the two old like couple, like the old lady who like like treated him like a baby, like I was like slightly confused. I was like, if someone brought that home to me, that would not be my reaction.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of has to do with though like fulfilling his purpose as like what his purpose is supposed to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like his purpose is to like be there to listen since like he like used to not listen and not love, so he begins to like care about what people say, and like I think about like the purpose of like a kid's teddy bear or something. It's just like supposed to be there and supposed to listen, like kind of fulfilling his purpose, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know if that really answers the question, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because he was like made of China and like not necessarily like the normal size of a doll. Like this bunny was like I guess quite large, like 2 feet tall or something. But like so maybe it was like easier for people to like recognize the significance of that and be like, oh well this thing's super cool. I'm gonna like actually treat it like it's alive. But I don't know.
That makes sense.
Maybe it's because the other people didn't have any friends. Maybe they looked at maybe they looked to him as a friend, like told him their secrets and stuff.
Yeah. Like those people
I don't know, it's just thought.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any more questions to ask?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Here's my second question. How do you think our future students would react to this book, to a book like this? Was answered a little bit, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a little bit of like a mixed bag. Like people or kids would like definitely be there to like take it at face value and be like, this story's so cool. It's about a bunny and my bunny's come alive at home and like, and then there's other kids who have like gone through stuff that kids shouldn't have to go through that will take it quite a bit deeper and like it will really impact them. I feel like so a little bit of both, but I think they would both enjoy the book. Yeah.
I think that it would be like from face value if they just heard what the book was about. I'm not sure that a lot of kids would like be like, yeah, I want to read that, just because of like I'm thinking about generational things. Like it's about a China rabbit. Like most of the kids like probably don't even know what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
Like a China doll. Like they might like if their family has, you know what I'm saying? Like passed down or seen one or something like that, but it's not something that they play with.
Yeah.
And so I think that at face value, they would probably be like, I don't know. But I think if like once they got into it, I definitely think that kids would be ones to it. But like first, I'm thinking that some of them might not be like, woohoo.
I think kids would like it, like, even though it's kind of deep and may not be super exciting. I just think the fantasy aspect of it would make kids enjoy it more because I'm like a huge fantasy nerd. Like, I love fantasy books. So, but that's like me personally. But I think that helps kids like understand it better and would make them like it more. Is there any more questions?
Not for me.
Anything else y'all want to talk about?
It's bedtime.
Okay, cool. I'll stop recording then.